everyone, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are just tuning in, thank you very much for checking my channel out. So today, as promised, I will film a video, well I am filming a video on 10 tips on how to ace this semester. Alright, so first thing, wow, let me see, I have like crazy notes everywhere. Yeah, so number one, get an organizer. How ironic, because this does not look organized. But anyway, so yes, get an organizer. I'm gonna tell you that for me, I'm another traditional organized type. I have notes written, but they're like written on everywhere and in my phone. But as long as I write it down, I log it in my mind. So do whatever makes you organized, whatever works for you. So I'm just going to give the generic get an organizer tip because it's so helpful to write down what you need to get done and also prioritize what you need to get done in the order that it needs to get done. It's also really helpful to write down what you need to get done and then cross it out because it's very reinforcing. Honestly, feels rewarding. You feel accomplished to cross things out. First thing that I do is write down what I need to get done in the order it needs to get done, and when I cross it off I feel like I did something, a sense of accomplishment. This is probably not new to many of you, but honestly it's a great practice to continue doing. Go to class and ask a lot of questions. I know it sounds really common sense, but a lot of people feel very comfortable with the material, or you know, they just get into the habit of not going to class. But it's so helpful to be there to learn live. Also, the more times you expose yourself to material, the more concrete and permanent it becomes in your mind. So it's like mere exposure effect, you know, keep doing it, keep being exposed to this material, and it will become consolidated much more easily. Go to office hours as well. For me, I have a problem. I have a problem with asking questions because throughout most of my life, I always had to figure out things on my own. But there's a point in your life you realize that not everyone is the same. Not everyone will not want to help you. It's another way for you to gain exposure to the material. It's another way for you to grasp that material from another angle and from another voice, and for you to discuss it with someone else. When you verbalize internal concepts, it forces you to think about what you're going to say, and then it forces you to think about the material that you're thinking about. So it's just levels to it, you know, metacognition. So the more you think about it, the more you understand it. The more you understand it, the better you can grasp it. So I said I have a problem. I don't really like asking questions because I like to figure things out on my own. Some of you may be like me. Some of you may try so hard and spend as much time as possible on a certain subject until you finally feel like, okay, I really need help. And that's okay. And I think that's awesome. A lot of professors say struggle the material as much as you can first before you ask questions, because it fosters your learning because you are trying to figure out the answer on your own. Ask peers, ask peers. So if I struggle immensely with something, I'll talk to my friend like, yo, is this concept this way and that way, or like, you know, am I getting it right? Like, or I'll explain to them the concept, which makes more sense, and it helps you grasp it more because you're trying to explain something to someone, which helps you learn the material because you're verbalizing it and thinking about it at the same time. That is my next resource. I struggle immensely with the material first, then I talk to my peers, and if I still am confused, I will go to office hours. The third tip that I want to share is to adapt to your environment. Professors differ in their expectations of what a good student constitutes. So, for example, different professors may have a certain writing style that they like the most, or they like to see the most from their students. So you have to cater to what they're looking for. And that just speaks to the importance of adaptability. You have to be able to adapt to your environment. Wherever you are, whatever situation you're put in, adapt. And I'm telling you, adaptation is key, major key to success. Sometimes professors will have writing examples that previous students have written, and you just have to read that prose, read their essay, read their paper, thesis, whatever, read their work, and understand how they cultivated and crafted that piece of work, and see what type of style your professor is looking for. So professors differ in what they like to see, and you have to adapt to what they want. Form study groups. So I previously mentioned that I do talk to my peers when I need help, but study groups are so amazing because, well, obviously with the right people. I feel more comfortable talking to my friends than I do to like the professor about material that I'm just learning, because I have some type of, you know, pride. I don't want to look stupid in front of the professor, but I don't really care around my friends. If I sound stupid, they're like, yo Alison, what did you just say? And I'm like, oh, my bad, you know. I like to explain the material in my own way. Sometimes I speak colloquially because that type of language was a part of my upbringing and my socialization, so it was always going to be near and dear to me. If I can break it down very easily, why not? Einstein once said, if you truly understand material, you can explain it easily. And so that's what I do. So I like to form study groups to verbalize the learned material, to think about these verbalizations, and to discuss areas of contention as well as agreement. Because when you do compromise and you come to an agreement, you come to a fuller understanding of the material. This tip is about maintaining versus retaining information, and one way to differentiate between the two is this. After an exam, do you remember anything that you learned? If you don't remember anything, then you would just maintaining rather than retaining. The first thing I'm going to say is you have to understand the material. Don't just study the material, understand the material. Don't memorize the material, understand the material. And for you to understand the material, first, number one, you have to spend time with this material. Sometimes I don't like some of the things that I'm studying that much, like it's like boring to me, but I really have to think in my mind, yo, this is so interesting, oh my gosh, like I really have to think that, because if I don't, then I won't really learn. And that mentality really helps a lot. And that would help you understand, because you're invested in the material more than, you know, if you were just like, oh my gosh, this is so boring, I just want to get this over with, and you just kind of default on memorization, and that's not good. So understand rather than study, and comprehend rather than regurgitate. So, and another thing that I like to do to help kind of foster learning is translating it into the real world. So you learn all this stuff, and next thing you do to translate it into reality is to explain these concepts to someone else. You're not just focusing on your thoughts and the internal, you're focusing on making the internal external, and that takes a different form of processing, and it will surely help you. Another thing that you need to do is to force this information that you are learning from your short-term memory into your long-term memory. And how do you do that besides, like I said, spacing out the time that you have to study this material? That I already said that. The second thing is sleep. And I know in undergrad I used to not sleep. It was so unhealthy, and looking back in retrospect, I didn't remember anything that I learned after some exams. I'm like, whoa. I used to cram, and I used to just not sleep, and that is not conducive in like fully translating what you learn from the short-term memory into a long-term memory bank. So get sleep, because during sleep memory consolidation occurs. Studying before you fall asleep is also really good for consolidation, because it wipes out interference effects. Like for example, if you study during the day, something might have happened towards the end of the night that kind of interferes with what you learned earlier. So taking out that part helps also with purifying what you learned and consolidating it into the long-term memory. Somaticize. So this is another form for taking notes, but really take notes critically. Don't just like write things down, because I used to do that mindlessly, just like yeah this is important, and write a whole bunch of things down that don't even, like, they're not even important. And you have to understand what's important too, like what are you studying and what do you think the main themes are. But sometimes you have to decipher what's important, and you have to decipher what's not important. And one way you can do that is by asking your peers, asking yourself what do you think the professor wants to test you on, and also asking the professor. Now going back to writing notes. Writing notes down, but thinking critically about what you are writing. So after you read a paragraph, try to understand what the main topic of that paragraph is, write it down, because this is called cognitive anchoring, whereby you are anchoring your cognitions and putting it down on a piece of paper. So you are firmly grounding this material into your brain. So it really does help to somaticize, because like I said, when you use more than one modality, you're thinking first and then you're verbalizing your thoughts. That's using two modalities, mind and mouth, speech. Verbalizing your thoughts and also writing it down. Using your motor system, that helps. You are recruiting a lot of modalities to help foster your learning, and the more help you get, the more support you have, and the more concrete the material becomes. The last thing that I want to say is self-care. You really have to take care of yourself, and every time I'm on a panel talking about studying tips and like college success, I always say self-care is the most important thing. Seriously. You need to take care of yourself mentally. You have to make sure you are great mentally, emotionally, physically, and one way that you can do that is by chilling out, taking breaks. You are not a robot. Some people might think they are, but they will burn out. And one thing that I always tell students is you really need to take time for yourself. Whatever it is that makes you happy, whatever it is that gives you peace of mind, you need. You cannot force yourself to study for 24 hours and not take breaks, not go to the bathroom, not eat. Like, I know some people don't eat at all and they just go ham on work, and you can't do that. You really have to eat, you have to exercise, you have to eat properly, and you have to sleep, have fun, chill out. In undergrad, I used to dance. I used to dance heavily, and I still do. Not as much as I used to. I used to choreograph. I used to do a lot of hip-hop, dance hall, because my family is like part Jamaican. So I learned dance hall when I was really young. So I used to do that a lot. I used to choreograph a lot. I used to be in the studio a lot because I was so stressed with so much schoolwork. So that's that was my cathartic outlet. Some people like to write poetry, some people like to sing. I like to sing as well. Some people like to just watch movies, some people like to play sports. Do what makes you feel happy. Do what makes you feel good, and you will be fine. So self-care is like prime to me. Please make sure you take care of yourself. If you are having emotional issues, make sure you receive the support that you need. By talking to trusted peers, friends, families, your on-campus guidance counselor or therapist, psychologist, just someone who is trusted, church leader, somebody. If you have emotional problems, if you're not even emotional problems, if you're going through difficulties, talk to somebody. It's always better to talk about your issues. A psychiatrist that I knew said to me once, "Hey, why worry alone?" That's true. We are social beings, and I believe that a lot of mental health distress can be safeguarded against and can be prevented if you take the necessary measures to take care of yourself mentally, emotionally, physically, and you'll be fine. Trust me. So that's it. 10 tips. I'm trying to parse down video time, but I know I have a lot to talk about all the time, and it's really difficult to kind of like cut out content because I feel like so many things are important for me to share with you, and I would love to explain things in more detail, but I can't because it's just not conducive for me to make like, for your learning, to make like 30-minute videos. It's not, especially when it's online. So it's a different story if you talk to me. You probably will be like, yo, Allison talks way too much. I do. I talk a lot. I talk for a living, you know. I studied I did counseling. It's like awesome. But anyway, I hope that I helped you at least a little bit, and please tell me and share with us what your tips are for others on how to get good grades, because everyone is different. But these are some things that have been proven to be effective, and these are things that I've used for my own academic success, and I just hope it works for you all too. It was really fun making this video. I really wanted to make this video. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me, and I think the next video I'm going to make will be either on how to prepare for midterms and finals mentally, or how to prevent burnout, because I know a lot of people burn out. Self-care again, I'm telling you, self-care is so important. So yeah, anyway, thank you again. Thank you for joining me. Sorry for me being a little hyper. I'm so hyper. I don't know, I feel like running right now. Whew. Yeah, I don't really drink coffee like that, so I'm probably, I'll chill next time. I will.